Okay, welcome back. So in today's session, we are going to discuss the post-mortem finding of drowning. So without any delay, we can start the topics. So first, we discuss the external finding of drownings. Then we move towards the internal findings. So this external finding it include both the seawater drownings and freshwater drowning. So what are the common finding in case of drownings? The common finding in case of the drowning is the cyanosis, congestion and the petechial hemorrhage. So these are the common findings which seen in case of the either it is seawater drownings or the freshwater drowning. So what happens? The one of the external findings that observed in case of drownings is the presence of mushroom safe froth over the nostrils and the mouth. So why this mushroom safe? Mushroom save the copious amount froth present over the nostrils and the mouth. This is because it is generally more specific towards the seawater drownings, because in a seawater drownings the lungs alveoli are the filled with the copious amount of froth. So the froth which are present in the lungs alveoli after the death, it will expel out and the present over the nostrils and the mouth. But still it is not a specific feature of what drownings. It will also seen in case of the opium poisonings, strangulation, electrocutions and snakes bites. So what are the so after the discussion of these things, the next point is that the same things is written here: external findings like cyanosis, petechial hemorrhage and the copious amount of mushroom safe froth at the mouth and the nostrils. It will seen in case of the electrocutions, epilepsy, snakes bite, opium poisoning, strangulation. So that's why I told you that this presence of froth is not specific to drowning. It will seen in case of opium poisoning and some other things. But it is if we compare the freshwater drownings and the seawater drowning, so in among these two types of drowning, it is more suggestive towards the seawater drowning. The second external feature is the washer women hands, clenched hand with mud and the aquatics plants. This clenched hand with mud and aquatics plants, it is specific to the drownings. It is specific to the drowning. So if any post-mortem examination it is found that the dead body is having a clenched fist with mods and the aquatics plants, it indicates the drownings. The second is cutis and serena. So what is the meaning of this cutis and serena? So in case of the cutis and serena, there is the pucker granular appearance with the piloerection. So this here generally this here is the at the settle down position, but in case of cutis and serena, this there is the piloerection. So when there is the piloerection, I mean the hair is straight ups. So when there is the piloerection, there is the pucker granular appearance. We call it as a cutis and serena. Okay. So the next post-mortem finding is the post-mortem hypostasis seen over the front part of the body, especially the face, neck and the chest. So these all over are the external findings, I mean post-mortem external findings of drownings. So after discussion the post-mortem findings, the next steps is the internal findings. So we basically classify these internal findings in the freshwater drownings and the seawater drownings. In case of freshwater drownings, mostly the lungs alveoli they are filled with air with some amounts of water, because most of the water absorbed into the systemic circulations. So that's why the lungs are the emphysematous. I mean there is the dilated alveoli with filled with airs. So when the alveoli are the dilated filled with airs during the post-mortem examination, when we cut the lungs and as the alveoli cut by the knife, the air which are trapped inside the alveoli, they release out. So due to the releasing out of trapped air from the alveoli, a cryptus sound will produce. But in case of the seawater dronings, their lungs alveoli are the mostly filled with copious amount of froth and the waters. So when we cut the lungs during the post-mortem examination, there is no any cryptus will heard. So these things are written here, the emphysematous lungs. The second thing is the heavy water loss, jelly-like consistency, because the lungs are mostly filled with water and the copious amounts of froth. No cryptus is heard during cutting the lungs, because there is minimum amounts of air trapping in the lungs alveoli. Most of the lungs alveoli are filled with water loss. The second thing is the chloride concentration is less than 600% in case of in left ventricles. It is called Gettler test, because in obviously fresh water having a less concentration of salts, so that's why in post-mortem internal finding we also observe the less amounts of salts, I mean less than 600%, while in case of the seawater the chloride concentration in the left ventricle is more than 600%. The next internal finding is the Pultoff's hemorrhage. So what is this Pultoff's hemorrhage? Pultoff's hemorrhage means multiple shining hemorrhagic spots. What is this Pultoff's hemorrhage? Multiple shining hemorrhagic spots. So when during the post-mortem examination you observe the multiple shinings spots, and the size of this hemorrhagic spots is generally greater than the petechial hemorrhage. So this is called the Pultoff's hemorrhage. It is due to the ruptures of alveolar valves. So how this Pultoff's hemorrhage will be produced? It is due to the ruptures of alveolar valve. The next thing is the dilatation of the right side of the hearts. So why this right sides of the hearts get dilated? Because as the person stop breathing, there is generation of back pressure in the pulmonary arteries. So when there is the generation of high back pressure in the pulmonary arteries, this back pressure transmitted to the right atriums, and finally it transmitted to the left atrium. So that's why the right ventricles, I mean right sides of the heart get dilated. Okay, again it is a very important topic, the sign of droning. So there are some specific signs of the dronings. One is the Wendeler three-ring signs. So what is this Wendeler three-ring signs? So when we collect the stomach contents in bottles, so the solid materials they settle down at the bottoms, liquid in the middles, and the froth at the tops. So this the stomach's representation of this stomach's contents in bottles, we called it as a Wendeler three-ring sign. The next is Sehart sign. So what is this Sehart sign? Sehart sign is basically the micro ruptures in the stomachs. Sehart sign is what it is, the micro rupture in the stomachs. The next is Sebinski sign. What is this Sebinski sign? Sebinski sign means a small anemic spleen. The next is Uno sign. Uno sign means hemorrhagic in the middle ear. If we observe the hemorrhagic in the middle ear, we call it as the Uno sign. And the last is when Weissenkohr signs. So this Weissenkohr sign is the water in the sphenoid and the ethmoid sinus. Again we are going to repeat. Wendeler sign means that the representation of a stomach's contents in three layers, topmost having the froth, middle having a liquids, and the bottom having a solid particles. Then the next is the Sehart sign. In case of Sehart signs, there is the micro ruptures in the stomachs. So if we observe the micro rupture in the stomachs, we call it as the Sehart sign. Next is Sebinski sign. Sebinski sign means a spleen are anemic and a small. So whenever the spleen are the anemic and a small, we call it as the Sebinski sign. The next is the Uno sign. Uno sign means hemorrhage in middle ear. So if we observe the hemorrhage in the middle ear, we call it as the Uno sign. And the last is Weissenkohr sign. Weissenkohr sign means water in the ethmoid and sphenoid sinus. So this is the end of lecture. I hope you can understand it little bit. Welcome back in new session.